My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Shazam. And this review will have spoilers, so there's your warning. But when I first saw this movie, I loved it. It was my favorite DC movie in a very long time. I thought it was hilarious and charming and just a total blast. And ever since, I've looked up really highly of it, but I just rewatched it for the very first time, and I still like it. It's decent, but it's nowhere near the level that I remember it being. But let's talk about the best part, the part of this movie that really allows it to stand out, and it's the entire plot of this kid who becomes a superhero. And when he's Shazam, you actually feel like it's a kid with powers. And it just gives this movie a certain level of charm, and it makes for some very funny scenes. That moment when he's learning what powers he has is just a total blast. So I love that element of the movie and how it comes to life there. I also think this movie has the perfect level of cheese. Some people say cheesy is a bad thing. For me, it depends on the movie and the amount of cheese, and this is some fine cheese you've got here. Um, really worked for me. I thought the story of Billy, who gets separated from his mother a long time ago, and how he's been searching for her ever since. You know exactly what direction it's going to head in, but it still has some real emotion there when he finds out his mother left him because she didn't think she could do a good job raising him. And you feel the weight of it. I also love so many of the horror elements that David F. Sandberg brings here. He directed Lights Out and Annabelle Creation, and he wanted to bring just a tiny bit of that aspect of his career into this movie. So the Seven Deadly Sins and the creepy gargoyle look to them really worked. There's also this one moment where there's all these doors, each one has a different monster behind it, and that just reminded me of Monsters Inc., but I got serious issues with this movie. Number one is the pacing. It's an absolute nightmare in this regard. After I was done watching it, I actually went back, and I might be off by a couple minutes here, but Zachary Levi doesn't show up until 40 minutes into this movie. Like, the majority of the first act is more dedicated to the villain's backstory. And I feel like you could have easily trimmed that down and focus on Billy. He's the heart and soul of this movie, so he should be front and center. And then the last fight begins at like the hour and halfway mark, and it's 28 minutes, which is ridiculously long. After like the 15-minute mark of this final battle, I just tune out. I've seen more than enough. It's just stretched out for an unnecessary amount of time. So you got it. So like we finally get Zachary Levi. He does his Shazam thing for a bit, but then it's the final battle already. And I just feel like the structure and pacing of this movie is completely off. And for all that extra time we spend with the villain and setting him up, he's just a generic villain who isn't even remotely memorable. Like, you've got a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, which is fantastic. Warren's not a great villain, but he's never the priority. But this movie spends so much time with him, and I can't even help but wonder, what was he trying to accomplish? He was trying to get this power. Then he gets his revenge on his dad and brother. And then he happens to hear that the wizard found his champion, so now he's after Shazam. Like, that's the best you've got for motivation? What happens when he beats Shazam? Is he looking for world domination? Like, what's his end goal here? Like, usually the villain is out to do his villain thing and the hero has to stop him. You know, you've got that with Avengers Infinity War, Spider-Man 2, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Batman Returns, all of the best villains actually. But here he's just after Shazam because why not? There's not really a personal angle to it besides his envy, but it's just not enough. And I do love the ideas of family and togetherness here, especially in the foster home. I just wanted way more of it. You know, there's a point where Shazam is talking to Mary, and I just feel like I know nothing about this character by this point. And I wish they had more attention given to them. I wish we saw Freddy's life in this orphan home more, because he lives there for like a day before he becomes Shazam, and then they just kind of get forgotten until the very end. I also don't think this movie looks the best visually. It does look a little too clean. There's moments where I feel like it could have had a bit more grit to it. And the CGI isn't the best. And just the fact that they have Superman in this movie and they just cut off his head, it just makes this movie look way cheaper than it should. So I don't like any of that, but you do got yourself a really strong cast for the most part. Zachary Levi isn't a big name actor, and when I heard he was cast, I was very unsure because I thought Channing Tatum would have been perfect for this movie. But man, Zachary Levi just makes this character his own. He just communicates that childlike behavior so perfectly, and I was really impressed with him here. You've got Ashnor Angel playing Billy Batson, and honestly, he's good. I would have liked a bit more from him. You've got Dylan Glazer, and I thought he was great. And Luca, I don't think he's good here. He's trying a bit too hard to be the funny, edgy guy at the beginning. Then he becomes a bit more needy, and he just got annoying for me. And he just never felt sincere. Then you've got Mark Strong, who I love as an actor. I like him in Sherlock Holmes. I love him in Kingsman, The Secret Service. There's plenty of other movies I like him in. He's very forgettable here. You've got Faith Holman, who plays Dara. Utter delight. She does such a wonderful job here. In such little screen time, she just conveys so much love and compassion, and I thought for a kid's performance she really stood out. You've got Dejong Hansu, who isn't in the movie much, but he does enough to ground it, and I thought he was really good. You've got Adam Brody, who I think should have won an Oscar for The Kid Detective. He is so good in that movie, it's ridiculous. I also thought he was incredible in Ready or Not. I don't really like him here. I thought his acting felt very forced. Wasn't impressed. Then you've got Ian Chung, who I think does a perfectly fine job. You've got Grace Caroline Morey, who plays Mary, and I thought she does a fine job. And you've got Cooper Andrews, who plays Victor, who in very little screen time just shows so much love and compassion, and I was impressed by him. So the cast, for the most part, does a really good job. The movie does have heart. I like the cheesy aspects of it. It has charm. It's funny, and I love the idea of this kid who becomes a superhero and learning what that actually means and just discovering what powers he has. It makes for a very entertaining movie, but a flawed movie. The pacing is all over the place. The villain, despite spending so much time on him, is just generic, and I would have liked more of Billy and his foster family, and less of the villain, and for the final battle to be trimmed down quite a bit. That's how you really could have improved this movie for me. So I'm going to go ahead and give Shazam a 6 out of 10. I do find it funny that this movie came out in April 2019, just a month after Captain Marvel came out. Like, what are the odds? Because Shazam's also called Captain Marvel as well. It's just funny how that worked out. But what did you think of Shazam? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon. Gavin out.